Howdy, everyone. Alrighty, so baffles. I had made, I think, a couple at least videos about how I am working these baffles and how I am making provisions to seal the baffles once they're on the engine so I get maximum cooling. I have since deleted those videos and I'm basically going to start over because I had done the other couple of rear baffles. So this is the back baffle on the left side of the engine, and this is the left side inner cylinder baffle. I had been working on the right side back baffle with its inner cylinder baffle. During that process, I had shot a couple videos, but as I went through the process of doing all this on the right side, I learned a few things, and I learned a few things what not to do. And I thought rather than get into all of that nonsense, I just deleted all of that. Now that I have clear in my head what needs to happen, I'm going to do that with this stuff that has not been touched yet. So I'm basically going to start from the beginning and videotape, hopefully clearly, how this is going to work and how this is going to go together. So as you can see, I've got the plain baffle here, and I've already talked about sealing it with fuel tank sealant to help prevent some air leaks. And I've got my inner cylinder baffle here. And I think I've already talked about how I had put the red RTV going across these areas, and I decided against that because that would potentially restrict airflow. So I've removed all of those, and I'm basically starting from scratch, plain aluminum. The inner cylinder baffles, these also had red RTV already on them when I received them with the engine. There was red RTV here and here on these edges. And again, when this gets pulled up tight up against the cylinders, that RTV kind of settles in between the cooling fins, effectively blocking the flow. So I've already cut those out. What I am going to do is use the black sealing material for the baffles and cut that up and put those in place over these areas. Those are nice and flat. They'll seal against the fins, but they won't go between the fins and restrict flow. I'm going to do that on the inner cylinder baffle. I'm going to do it on any of these areas that touch the fins of the cylinder. Before I do that, I'm going to modify this so that I can use safety wire to pull and hold these wraps that go around the cylinders. These need to be held in place. The instructions show you, let me see if I've got that handy. Stand by one. The instructions demonstrate how to use threaded rod for that. And I have seen on the internet that people use and kind of prefer safety wire instead. So I'm going to do that. So here are the written instructions. This is the bottom of the engine. And you can see these rods that tie those curved areas of the front baffles to the curved areas of the rear baffles. And they demonstrate how you make those rods. But what I'm going to do, so that inner cylinder baffle is between the cylinders, so it's up in here. What I'm going to do is modify that so that I can run safety wire from that to the front baffles, and then from that inner cylinder baffle to the rear cylinders. So the front and rear cylinders will not be tied to each other. They'll be tied only to the middle baffle with safety wire. And like I've said, I've already gone through all this on the other side. That's all complete. I can show you that here in a second, but I'm going to walk through this process. So what I've done with this inner cylinder baffle, I basically put a bolt in this side here and a bolt on top here. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll put a bolt in the side sticking out, and I'll put a bolt up here sticking out. And those are threaded bolts. I actually, not threaded bolts, they're drilled bolts. I actually drill them myself. And that's what's going to hold the safety wire. So with this in the engine, safety wire will go from this bolt to the cylinder wrap, this cylinder wrap here. Those will get tied together, these will get tied together, then these and these. So they're all independent. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is modify this. And then like I said, this will be covered with the black sealing material. I'm going to put the sealing material here too. So real quick, if I can, I'll show you what the other side looks like. I've already sealed this the best that I can with some red RTV. So here it is in place. This is finished. This is not coming back out. I still have some tweaks to do, just like, you know, this corner, this will get folded down at some point. You can see there's a gap right here. I'll have to deal with that. Once this takes a set and it doesn't want to spring up as much, once this kind of takes a lay and stays there, I'm going to run some RTV back through here along this back gap. The inside's already been sealed. I've already got sealant around the engine block. You can see down in here, I've got sealant down in here. There's sealant way down in here. I even have a bead in the back along the engine and the baffle here, and that continues down around the side and back in there. If you look underneath, you can see some of the sealing material here, some of the black that I've talked about. And then here is the inter-cylinder baffle. I've got all kinds of stuff in the way. I'm not going to be able to get a good shot of that. Anyway, let me get started on the other one and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. But the cylinder baffle, inner cylinder baffle is in, and it's safety wired to the cylinder wraps that are here. And like I said, this is all bolted in place and it's all RTV sealed everywhere that I could find a leak. So I just use a light. I've got a simple drop light here and also a flashlight. Shine it around from underneath and look from the top down, and anywhere you see light penetrating, you just seal that up. So I'll get started on the other side and I'll try to detail some of the work that I'm doing, and I'll talk to you guys later. Alrighty, so I have my screws now ready for this inner baffle modification. You can see, let me put it down, I guess I'll hold it. You can see that I've got it drilled. The end of it there is drilled for the safety wire. These are stainless steel truss head screws. I like the truss head screws because the head itself is a larger diameter head and it's flatter. It's a little bit more flat than a standard like a domed or a button head type of screw. These truss head screws are wider and a little bit more of a lower profile. So I went ahead and drilled 4 of these for the safety wire on the end. And now that the type of screw has been decided, I can figure out on this sidewall here where I can put this screw. The sidewall is tapered and you want the screw to fit, the head of the screw to fit on that sidewall. So obviously if you put a hole way down here on the sidewall, you're not going to have hardly any edge distance, and the diameter of the head is going to stick up, and it's also going to interfere with this flat here. The head sticking up above this surface is not a big deal, but if you put a hole in here with little to no edge distance, the head is going to rub and interfere on this flat. So you just want to find a place on this sidewall here as close to center as you can get it so that it will fit on the sidewall and it won't interfere with anything else. If you can imagine this being installed on the airplane, so this is the rear baffle here. This goes this way. So this is the center of the engine. This is where the crankshaft would be. Of course, everything is upside down. This is where the crankshaft would be. This would go like this, and then you've got a cylinder that comes out here, a cylinder that comes out here. This then would be, actually, this would be this way because everything is upside down, right? And of course, these would be on the same plane, so this would be like that. Okay? So I need to put a bolt here sticking up to go from here to this baffle. And then, like I was just talking about, I'm going to put a bolt on this sidewall sticking out, and it will tie in to this baffle. So these will go like this. So the bolts that you put in here and the bolts that you put in here, you want them basically centered. You want one centered between this, and you want one centered between here. That will get you roughly in line with your two baffles here. So let me get that done, and I'll come back and talk to you guys here in a minute. And again, just be sure that the hole you put in this sidewall, you've got enough edge distance for the hole, and the diameter of the screw head does not interfere with this flat down here, this face here. Okay? So I'm going to put this camera on charge, apparently. The battery's dying, and I'll come back and talk to you guys here shortly. Alrighty, so here is the finished modified inter-baffle. This again is the left side baffle, but it doesn't matter. You do them both the same. All I had done, like I said, was I added a hole here for a drilled screw and a metal lock nut. I did that on both sides, and you can see now more clearly what I was talking about as far as having it positioned on this wedged piece. This piece gets thinner as it goes down. Have it positioned so that you've got room for the screw head. You don't want the screw head to interfere with this face or protruding above this face. And then I've added two more here. Same thing, just drilled and held on with lock nuts. I've got mine positioned. When you tighten these down, you want to be aware of the position of the actual hole where the safety wire is going to pass through. So the safety wire is going to come through these notches in this orientation here. And I found it was easier when I did the other side to have the holes lined up in that same orientation. These, I've got the holes lined up basically parallel to this flange here. So the holes in these two bolts run in this direction. They don't go up and down. It would be difficult to get safety wire through here. So I've got these holes running in this orientation. The holes here are running in this orientation. So now, I believe what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll cut up some pieces of this baffle material, and I'm going to make pieces for this one, this area here, and this area here. And I'm just going to hold those in place with RTV. Now, when I had done the other side, I took this baffle as is. Well, the other baffle, the baffle that's currently on the airplane, I put in the black sealing material, and then I put the baffle onto the engine, and I started hand bending these. These do not fit very well as they come. So you have to put this on the engine. bend these around, take it off to bend them, put it back on to fit it, make note of where you have gaps, make note of where things are not fitting that nicely, take it off, hand bend it, just like everything else we've been doing, right? It's a lot of on and off, on and off, on and off. The problem was I didn't do any of that. I went ahead and RTV'd the black seal on these areas. And then when I was putting this on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, I was rebending the shape of these. And by doing so, the black seal didn't like that because it wanted to be in this kind of contour. And then when I started rebending this, it wanted to move and flex, and it came loose in a couple of areas, and I had to deal with that. So what I recommend doing, and what I am going to do with this piece, I'm going to put those black pieces on here and let those start drying. While those are drying, I'm going to remove and replace this multiple times so I can get these bends correct first. Once this is shaped correctly, then I'll go ahead and put the black on. So I believe that's the next step. I'm going to get started on that, and I will talk to you guys here later.